If you don't know me, I'm Karen West and my page is Playfessional on Facebook. And I'm a illustrator and an artist, and I love to upcycle things like furniture and decor items. But today we're doing it like just a casual chat time. I've got my microwave coffee. I don't know about you, but mine always ends up in the microwave because I forget about half of it. And I've got a glass of water, a bottle of water, and this thing. Every time somebody comes into my house, they spot it and they go, "What's that?" What's that? This is something my dad made for me. And it's actually, you can see that big plastic roll? That's like a big monster food wrap roll. See that? So it needs this holder. So he's made me this holder out of plywood. Made this a while ago for me, and as you can see, this lasts a very long time. And it sits at the back there in my kitchen. And I thought it was time to make it a little bit more pretty. So he's made a nice little decorative end on it, you see. That's to hold the roll in. But I'm going to add a raised stencil to this. I'm going to fill it. I'm going to test some stain on it before I actually paint it. So I'll end up painted, a distressed, likely, not sure where I'm going to go, but I'm starting it now. So first I have to take this roll out, and so I've got this to work with. I've got this little nifty, don't ask me where they come from, I got this ages ago, and in the back it's got all the bits for the screwdriver, all the little bits that can pop in here, and so it's kind of one screwdriver all in one, and it's been a very handy tool to have. It wasn't dear, it was, I don't know, about $15 at the time I think I paid, and it's only on camera that you can't screw the back of it back in easily. So there we go. I'm just going to unscrew these panels, and because I've only got one camera angle, this is live and not edited, I will do my best to hold up what I can so you can see properly every step of the way. So it's just got a few screws. Now the first thing, when I pull things apart, the first thing I usually do is grab some small snack bags, and I pop them straight in the snack bag and write on them. And I have a trolley that is dedicated just bits of projects, and I have a space that's dedicated to client jobs so that theirs are in one spot, works in progress in one spot, and other things are another spot. And I find it's much better than searching for those pieces that you pulled apart a month ago or 6 months ago or whatever, and it's all written on the bag so you know where it goes back. Now I don't plan to do that, but sometimes you don't plan to do that, so it's always a good idea to be in that practice. So just a little plastic bag that you can write on, and you're less likely to lose things and waste time looking for them when you want to go back to that. So I'll just show you the side. You can see that's holding that in so it doesn't pop out. I'll just take the other end off it. Okay, so I'll pop all these screws in. Now I've used this raised stencil on several projects now, and they're quite easy to do. It takes a little patience with the drying time, but they really can pretty up just an ordinary piece of furniture, or you can use it on anything, glass, a vase, or anything really. Picture frame. So I'm just going to put that over there, and I won't lose it. So these are my panels. I'll take the roll out. Lunchtime, anyone? Okay. And the pipe that is used for my roller. Now the first thing we need to do is wipe it down too, make sure it's clean. I'll give it a wipe over. It's been recently wiped, but because it's got a plastic roll being cut off all the time, there is bits of plastic inside. Now this is rough wood, so there's a lot of character in it if I want to preserve the character, or if I want to clean it up I'll need to fill it. I'm going to clean some of it up because I like a bit of character, but I'll show you, on one side there's quite a bit of wood taken out of it. Okay, so I'll put it up to the camera so you can see. Can you see that? Yep, that's the worst side. So there's a bit of, it's not too bad, but there's some grooves in here where the wood's kind of chipped away. So I'll give that a fill. And when this has been routed, it's just a bit rough. And so I'm going to fill these, and I'm going to test it with two things. I'm going to test it with one side with stencil paste, which I'll use on these panels, and the other side I'm just going to use this Timbermate stuff, which I often use for filling as well. But I've started using this Botanics stencil paste, and I'm finding that's really good for fine cracks and just fine filling, and it dries pretty quickly. So I'm going to test them both because I want to test the stain, the new essential stain over it, just to see how well it takes, because stain often repels filler, and this is a water-based stain. So I'm going to test that on the edges, and I'm going to use the colour as an undercolour for when I add the paint and distress back. So if you've got any questions along the way, I can actually see them from here. I'll answer them if you type them in. Okay, so we will start with the stencil paste, and I've got a cloth which I'll put some water on. And squeeze it right out, so it's just damp. Now, I think I'll start with the raised stencil first because that'll get it drying. And I'll tilt you down, guys, so that you can see a bit better, because it's going to be a little bit hard to do it on the angle. I've got a whole lot of small stencils in here, and I was thinking some of them are too big, but I found this one, which I haven't used yet, and I'm thinking that will be nice in the panel. So I'll take it out. So that's it there. You can see it really easy, and I'm going to put it that way. The panel sits on an angle, so I'm going to pop it in there, and I think that will look nice. Okay, so the holes are the top, so I'm making sure that I have it running. There's the holes in the right way. It's a lovely stencil. Deanne, it's just a cheapie actually. Got it a while ago and I still haven't used it. So guys, you can measure, you can draw a line if you feel more confident in pencil. You're going to paint over it anyhow. You can draw a line through there. You get a rule on there, and that can help you straighten the stencil out. What I didn't get was tape, which I should get. Oh, hey, come here. There's obviously someone up the front. Come say hello. Come say hello. You apologise. So sorry about the noise, guys. Ferocious. My ferocious guard dog. Okay. Go on, go. So I'm going to line it up by eye, but I will get the tape. So bear with me for 2 seconds as I zip out and zip back in with some tape. Because when I put this down, I don't want it to move at all. And that's something I did forget. With all this stuff here, I did forget. So 2 seconds. Okay, so I've taped it on the panel. The panel's not sealed, by the way. Wendy, you ask? I'm assuming you're asking about this. This is a, it's like a plastic roll holder, you know, like lunch wrap, but it's huge. Can you see in the background that roll? So my father made it for me, and it's this big thing that goes in our kitchen and sits on the bench. So I'm making it more pretty. So that's what it is. So it's an unusual thing, very handy for the family, very handy for me packing books and all sorts of things, and sometimes packing the paints and the products when I send them to people, but it does sit on our bench, and so I like it to look very intentional, and I'm going to give it like a provincial finish. So raised stencil on the panel that goes on the side. Stencil paste, as you see, I've already been in there quite a bit. I've got a spatula that I've borrowed off something else. It happens to fit in there pretty good. I get a heap on there, but I don't need it to be very thick. Okay, it's very it's unusual because you think you need it thicker than you do. In fact, I've probably got way too much on there, but I'm going to lay it on, cover the stencil like that, take off all of that, and then, I hope that light's going to let you see this, then I'm virtually I feel like I'm taking most of it off. In fact, I can see the stencil coming up. You feel like you've taken too much off, and then I'm putting the rest back in the container. And I've got a bit of a hole there. I'll show you up close. Okay. So just about all of it goes back in to the container again, so you can reuse. Absolutely, it's fine. It's great for mixed media. So if I show you that stencil, it looks like it's barely in there, doesn't it? And that stencil's not that thick, but it's enough. It's enough to leave an impression, and it's enough to do a finish on it. So then I just lift it off. So you can use this for texture, even with a spatula or a brush or a sponge or a gap filler, or for what its intended use. Main intended use is stencil. So I'm lifting up all the tape carefully, and then I just lift it off. Okay, I've got a couple of bits that I've tried to lift off because it's not a sealed surface, but here it is there. See? So that's one done. I'll do the other one, and then we'll use it as a filler. You can just use your nails or another tool if you want to play with it, but you're probably best not to. And as it dries, you can touch it a bit more if you want, and you can even sand it later. But I'm going to leave that like that. That's gone on pretty well, and I don't want it smooth. I don't want it to look like a manufactured piece. So there's one. We'll put that there so it's still in frame. I'll get the other one and quickly do the other one. I have to take the tape off the top and the bottom so I can see those holes and line it up again. Bo, no. Do you want to go to bed? I send you to bed. There's not really people here. I'm talking to people, but they're not really here. Okay, so I'll stick the tape down. It is pretty. It's such a simple way to add decoration too, and a very inexpensive way to add decoration. And the tub of this goes a long way, and you can just do so many stencils, and you can reuse your stencil over and over again. I'll clean this up when it's done. And okay, we're going back in again. Put it on. Scrape it off. Okay, take it off again. In fact, I'm just going to lift it. I think I should be safe to lift it. Yeah. Second one. See how quick that was? Very quick and easy. Now this will, because this is raw wood too, it's going to suck in, the moisture's going to suck into that pretty quickly, so it should dry fairly quickly. Otherwise we can get a hair dryer, and gently dry it. Let's put that. I'm one of those that's trying to lift a little bit, so ideally probably to seal that wood would have been a better option. Okay. So, waste not, want not, as my mother used to always say. We scrape. Well, she probably still says it, because unfortunately I still have my mum. Scrape all the excess off and pop it into there. Now I'm just going to use the spatula for the next bit and not waste it. I'll just rinse this off though, so that I definitely get all of that clean and won't let it dry on the stencil, because we want to be able to use our stencils again. It comes off very easy. See, nice and clean. This is that stencil paste is kind of like a chalky matte finish. Some stencil pastes are more like a PVA plasticky finish, but this one's more of a matte finish, so it'll really grip the layers that go over top of it. I'll just put that away. So there you go. There's the raised stencils ready to dry and add their finishes to it. Now, I'm just going to use this now as a filler. So I'm going to use my fingers because I can. There's nothing in here that's going to be bad for my skin. And I'm virtually just going to push it into the rough wood. So this is almost like sanding without sanding. I'll take it from the jar, push it in. And this is where the rag comes in handy. So you can just see by applying this how many different things you could probably use it for. Now, because of these bits here, like holes, I do need to use the spatula for that. And I'll go into the knot. There's holes in this knot. And you know what? I'm going to leave those holes on there. I actually do want some of the character. So I just want to take things away that look like too much damage or mistakes, but the natural makings of the object I still want to keep. So push more in. Just keeping note of how long you've got. Just watch how the drying of it, because you do want to smooth it out before it gets too dry. I've got time. It's a pretty cold day. I do have the heater on. It's a pretty cold day here now. It wasn't yesterday when it was almost living under sheets, and that's Melbourne for you. Okay. So really not drying too hard. Damp cloth and you wipe it back. Put that in the sink. Oh, actually, I'll show you a little trick. I have quite a few up my sleeve. I folded the wet cloth on over the spatula, and then this part, just take the excess off that way, just smooth it down a bit, a bit less sandy. Just going to take the edges off with the damp cloth and blend it into the wood without touching the centre. And that's the fill with the stencil paste. Now I'll use the other stuff. So, did I get stencil paste on me then? I think I did. Just rinsing out my cloth. And the spatula. Seal this up. And the Timbermate. This is oak colour. I have been using this on something and then I've poured it back in and out of water, so it's a bit watery. But I just want to do a test patch because I'm testing this stain. So I'm going to get a little bit on there. I'm just less confident about this one working than the stencil paste. So it may, but I'll put it somewhere where it doesn't matter so much. the inside. Okay, so that's not straight. See that? That's not straight consistency. There is water in that, so it's almost the consistency of whipped cream before it's whipped. And I've been able to push it all the way in. And now we can let it dry. That's something I noticed. That one smells. I can smell that. It doesn't seem to be any smell out of the stencil paste either. Okay. So when this is dry, there it is. It's looking ugly. Things have to get ugly before they get better, guys. So when that's dry, we will test these. Now I've got two colours here I'm debating over. One's Alpine Ash, which is a light grey. I really like the Gustavian grey, but I haven't tried the ash, so I thought I'd try that. And Nautic Night is a black. I don't know if that's going to be too dark, so I'll go in with that first, I think. But we need to get this dry. So I will need to get a hairdryer to it. Now in your how-to notes, I'll just note that I wouldn't normally dry it with a hairdryer. It's because I'm live and I need to get it dried pronto. So I would normally leave it overnight and come back to it the next day. But yeah, we don't have that option here. So I am drying it with a hairdryer. I'll have a go with these two. And I'm pushing it down as I go. There was just a couple of little bits that are trying to rise up. Hadn't quite stuck to the wood. Because when I've lifted up the stencil, it has lifted it up a little bit. So just before I get it dry, I've pushed it down. It's pretty good. That's it. They're dry. We can move to the next one. The next bit. Okay. Now I have a couple options here. I could seal this because this is raw wood. I could seal it because I'm trying to do this quickly, not leaving it overnight to dry. I could seal it, but because I'm brave, I'm going to go straight in with the stain. All right. So, but I'm just letting you know that I'm being brave. I haven't let it dry. So now, okay. I want a soft one, particularly because it is only just dry. I'll just pour a little bit out into here. I'll show you the colour. See the colour? Yeah, it's kind of, this stuff is it's almost like a glaze. Leanne, how are you? Great minds and all that. Yes, Deanne, great minds. We'll go with that. Leanne, start again, Kaylin. It's a plastic roll holder. It holds to that huge roll in the back. That's a big roll of like plastic wrap that my father's got for me a long time ago, and he made that holder for it. So it's almost like a shop's gift wrap holder that sits on my bench over there in raw wood and I want to make it pretty. So that's what it is. So it's held together. The roll, this has got a pipe that goes in here and holds the plastic roll, and on the sides that pipe is held in by these panels that are screwed in, and they sit like a diamond shape. So I've put the raised stencil on it. So the sides are pretty, because that's what we mainly sell. We see the roll, but at the sides they're pretty. And so I'm going to make it a bit French provincial so it looks intentional. So nobody would know what this was until they saw the plastic on it. And even then, people come into my house and go, what's that? Why? What is that? So that's what it is. So I'm going to put this stain on, and I'm going to hold it up while I do it, and I'm going to do it backwards so that you can see it. And I'm just painting it on like you would paint. When I've used this stain before, I usually wipe it on with a rag, a dampened rag. But because I've got a raised stencil on here, I'm definitely going to use a brush. So I've got to have a look at myself for a bit. And I'm lifting off a bit of it because it's sitting in the grooves a bit. Just go over it and over it gently. It's a very soft brush, so I can do that. There we go. Yeah, that was a good choice. Jan, you're a champion. That was a good choice. It'll soak into the wood now. It'll soak into the stencil to a degree. I think most of it will sit on top of the stencil though. So the paste is absorbing it. You'll be able to see now because it's kind of absorbed in. So I hope it, can you see how it's shiny where the stain is butting against the stencil? That's because there's more there and it hasn't dried, so it's thicker. But against the wood, it's soaked in, and on the stencil, it's soaked in. So it is going in. It's actually really, I wonder if you can see it flat on. That's better, isn't it? So it's picking up the texture of the stencil too. Now, if you didn't want that much texture, you just sand the stencil when it's completely dry. But I like texture, so I really don't want it to look manufactured. So we'll do the other one, and then I'll test the Timbermate, which I have a feeling won't work as well. But not that I don't. I do like Timbermate. I'm not bagging Timbermate, but I just think this paste will probably work better for what I want to do. So I'm just pushing it on the wood and amongst the stencil, and then evening it out. And that little bit of stain went a long way. I'm going to be able to use the rest of it on the rest of it, I think, on the body. Okay, we've got two. Okay. All right, now we've done I'll tell you what, we'll have the best of both worlds. I'll use the black now. We'll do that, hey? I'll just rinse that out. So no smells, can't smell anything. Just rinse it out in water. Use the black. I'll just see how much the black stains up the stencil paste. So I'll probably end up going in with paint anyhow, but this was a test, an experiment. Oh, that actually covers that well. I'll show you up close, I've just got to see what I'm doing. I can't even see where that stencil paste is actually. Look, I'll show you. You'll be able to see the texture of the wood, but that stain is completely covered. You can't tell where the wood is in the stencil paste. Yes, migraine-free stain. I know. That's why I use different products, but I mostly use, like 99% of the time I use the Essentials, and I got onto the Essentials originally. Now, full disclosure, I have it on my website. I do sell it, but I started using it because of having it in my home, because I work in my home, and I've got a dear little dog, as you saw, that I really love, and my children. It's my home, my family, and our health matters. So I really know, we all notice the fumes using, particularly waxes. I won't say which wax, but we were using a lot of wax and other paints, and it was smelling, the whole house was smelling. So somebody had mentioned the Essentials wax, how it smelt nice and that it was eco-friendly and all that sort of stuff. So I tried it. That was it. I was done. So since then I've used their paint and all their products, and I mean I can use that wax on my skin. I use it as a barrier cream before I do staining. So that's why, that matters to me. So that's why I use them, and I thoroughly test the products to see what they can do, because I prefer to use that something that's just friendlier on your skin and your lungs and surfaces. I mean, I'm working in the kitchen today. I don't really want to be working on using something that I shouldn't be using in my kitchen, do I? So, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to paint this whole thing in this. I'm painting the edges because that's what I'm going to distress back to, and that's all I really need to distress back to. I'm not going to do a surface distress where the flat sides will be rubbed back too much. So I'm going to overlap this. Now you can do this with paint, you don't have to use stain. I was just testing the stain, and that's why I'm using this. I think too it'll grab to the wood probably more than the paint, so when I sand back it's less likely to come right off. So it's probably a better option. I'm just using the same brush as and you can use any brush, but the other reason I was using the waxes from this company too is because they're generally softer. Some of their drying time's a little bit more because there's no solvents in it, but I think it's worth it. And my arm, honestly, my arm says thank you, because I was getting very sore arms and hands from the waxing and the buffing and all that. I love the liquid wax because that's really, I mean, that goes on like cream. It's like putting moisturiser on your furniture. So can you guys, I'm probably holding that at the wrong angle. That's better. So in my classes, on the furniture projects that we work on, there's a lot of close-ups. You'll be able to see a bit better than on the lives. The lives will be generally more conversational lives and interaction. But I am pre-filming a lot of the projects and zooming right up and several cameras and all that sort of stuff so that you can really see well. Yes, Deanne, if anyone has any health issues, this is, I mean, having healthier paint project supplies is pretty important, in my opinion. And cleanups much easier too, do you know? And even like it's conducive to upcycling and recycling too, because even the rags and that can be washed out easy. So you can, you know, wash the wax rags and things like that and reuse them. So environmentally it's beneficial in quite a few ways. I find the coverage good, the value is really good. For example, I mean, I didn't mean to turn this into a big promo, I'm just being honest with you. But even the clear coat can be diluted to about 50%. So you're getting kind of twice as much. But there are other brands too that do some eco stuff and healthier stuff. I just think it's important just to find a brand that you can access and look after your health. Okay, and probably not drink microwave coffee like I'm doing. Okay, so there we go, all around the edges of that. Now, I won't put it back over there because I'll get it on the bench, and because this stuff dries and it's not going to come off, I won't put it on my bench. So how are we going with that? That's pretty close to dry. And because I've got a black edge over there, I'm going to do a bit of black on this one too. And it mainly needs to be on the stencil and on the edges of this, which I didn't do before. I should wipe that. I was just thinking I'll just get a dry cloth. I'll show you this. This is nice on its own, even if you were to do this to the whole thing, really. If you wanted black, which I don't, I want white. I want a white thing on my bench. It would blend in better if it was black, actually, but I'll just show you what this looks like. I'm just gently wiping off it's not a bad colour, is it? Now that's on pie, so it had the Alpine Ash on first, then the black over top. That's quite a nice finish actually. I probably should have done that first. But that's what happens if you experiment. See, I know now. I can get that effect on something should I wish. That would be nice, wouldn't it? So I'll let that dry. It's good, isn't it? So that's the other colour. And that's the black over that colour. I'm wiping it back. I'll wipe it back a little bit more again. How's it go that way? Okay, so I'll just do this one now. I'll do this quickly. And I will need to wash my hands because this is stain, and I didn't put the wax on first on my hands. Black table legs with grey top. Yes, that would be nice. For those who are brave with colour too, any deep base like a red base or a deep blue or deep green with this colour on top would be nice too. Be very rich finish. So you can get little pieces of wood to experiment with and come up with different things. So that needs to dry now. These need to dry, and then I can go in with the colour that I'm going to use. Well, it's not really colour really because it's white. I'm going to use white clay over top. And next, and I didn't need that much stain. I've wasted quite a bit of it pouring all that out, but it's hardly used any. It's pretty dry. Before, after. Hi Sarah. You'll see the brush strokes, look, it's very rough. See, it hasn't bled at all. It's just where the brush has gone on. It's virtually like you would, like with paint. It's not running. Even though it's thin, it's quite thin consistency. Well, it's not thin, it's not like milk, but it's thinnish. Is that a word? Thinnish. It's staying exactly where I put it. So if I was to do a line, can you see that? If I was to do a line, there you go. Can you see that? That's really fine. It hasn't run at all. You could paint with it. And you could use the different colours to paint different tones. So, Sarah says, I like your thinking. I'm surprised that it has stayed unpainted for so long at your place. But then you have so much commission work. I can see why. Yes, I know. It's been staring at this in the face in the kitchen for a very long time. I've owned this contraption for about, I don't know, could be 8 years, 10 years maybe, I don't know. And it's been sitting there. But I thought it was a perfect small piece to show this this method on, paint. Borrow a bowl from the kitchen. Don't tell anyone. Okay. Oh, I better go easy. I'm used to pouring out the furniture. This is not a very big job, so we don't need a lot of paint. Now this is the boring bit, guys. So if you're feeling like a cup of coffee right now, just leave it running and go make yourself a cup of coffee. I'm just going to paint this all over the body. We might have this finished soon, the way I'm going. Took all this time to get it happening. It might be done and dusted. So if you're coming on now, these holes are drilled holes, and I'm leaving all of that. I'm leaving some of the character. I have filled in some of it. Some of the faults in the wood. You can go back and see that. I've tested a couple of fillers. Used stencil paste. Tested some stains. And now we're painting. Is that for courage for white? That's pretty good. I'm just feathering, once most of the paint's out of my brush, I'm just very lightly feathering it so it's smoothish. This paint has a bit of grip when it's finished, so it's easy to sand, but it's not like really plaster-like or chalky, so it's pretty smooth and you don't need a lot of sanding, if any, and it doesn't take up a lot of product after. For that reason, it's not gripping so much wax or anything like that. So it's but any white paint you can use make your own chalk paint or any brand that you've got. Okay. And the sides done. So you can see the wood. It's really rough ply. Yes, Anthony, the white's going a long way. The white definitely likes ply, that's for sure. Okay. And it's going over the stain without picking up the stain, and see how long that took to dry. It took no time at all. And I do suspect this is going to give me a very easy distressed finish using the stain instead of paint underneath. Because I'm a rebel and I like to, in the nicest possible way, I like to try things and use them how they're not meant to be used and to see how far I can push it. Which is good because you get to use all your products up and you're not limited. And this again's drying pretty quickly in the on the raw wood. I'm not exactly in sunny Queensland or... Now I'm just scooting around to make sure I've got no drips. Just take it off the back part of it. I'm not going to worry about in here because that will be, yes, that will be completely covered because of the pole that has to go back through there. So, Deanne's saying I'm not a rebel. I'm assuming she's saying I'm not a rebel, I'm an artist. That's right. We were built for innovation. We were created for innovation. That is my mantra. Okay, so I'm painting the inside now. Not all this will be seen, but I do like to paint actually most surfaces, even the bases of things if I can. I'm always talking on my page about having a nice bottom. You need a nice bottom on your pieces because if you do sell or give something as a gift or that, and somebody flips it over and puts it in the car, it's nice to have nice for them to see a nice bottom. I can't tell you how good it is to be painting today. I've been stuck on the computer for days doing all the website work and everything for my membership group and that, and it's like so nice to be painting. Okay, can you guys, oh you can kind of see. I'll do these bits in a minute. Can't really see them, can you? Actually, I might do one now. So I'm going to just completely cover this. I know it probably looks like that was a waste of time staining it, but I'll show you it's not. And can I encourage you, if whenever possible, to experiment? Just give things a go. It's only paint. So if you mess it up, it doesn't matter because you can just go back over it again. It's very hard to really wreck it. You might lose a little bit of time or a little bit of product, but in the end, you'll get to know so much more. Now, I'm thinking to myself now, do I wipe this or not? Yes, see, Leanne agrees we need to have nice bottoms on our things. Oh, see that? Now I'll show you. This is one finish you could go for. This is not the finish I'm going to do, but I'll show you one. I'll throw some extras in for you. This is completely covered by the stain, right? Which is self-sealing. So I've used the white paint over. I've got this damp cloth, and that is, oh, well, if you don't drop it, that is almost the whitewash finished. Almost linen. Looks like linen, doesn't it? And you could then go in with even an antiquing over top of that, and that'd be really nice. So that's one thing, one finish you could do. If I'd gone over this whole thing with a stain first, then the paint, wiped it off, let it dry. You can either leave it at that and seal it like a white linen, or you could antique it, or when it's dry, you could then just give it a light sand and pick up those edges too. So, but that's not what I'm doing. So I am covering the whole thing. I'm going back over. Again, this is a pretty soft brush, so it doesn't pull the paint back off. If you use nice soft synthetic brushes, this is no special brush. This is just one I got from a hardware or something. But so that's completely covered in white at the moment. So that needs to dry before the next step. I'll do the other one. When I get up to the edges, I just use the excess of my brush. I don't generally dip back in. So dip back in these fine spots, you're more likely to be then spending all this time trying to get the excess paint off. So you have a full brush on the big areas and an empty brush on the areas you don't want to have drips. Second one done. Okay, there. Finish this, and then we're up to the next bit then. Hang on, I'm not showing you, I'm hiding here. Here we go. I'm glad you enjoy my tips. I try and share as many as I can. And sometimes they come to me while I'm working, so if you catch me in the moment, I'm always happy to share. Because that's the way it should be. The only time I don't is when I just don't have time to be typing or whatever. So that's why I'm moving into the teaching formally. Then I can give my membership guys, my inner circle, everything I've got. Okay. Oh, I think I've got paint on me. I don't know about you guys, but I learn a lot via video. I've always been a visual learner. I take in quite a bit by written, but it just seems to be laborious for me. I like to see and copy or listen and be inspired. So I like podcasts and audio books and all that sort of stuff. So how I learn is kind of how I teach. I guess because I relate to it. So not a lot of written content, more visual learning and audio, anything like that you can take in, digest, even sometimes while you're doing other stuff. So that's why I find audiobooks are really good for me. I can be listening to that while I'm painting and taking in learning while I'm painting or doing other things. Time management. I don't know why that dog's barking like it is today. Boaz, no! Good boy. There's a lot of bird activity out the front, but I think our estate's been pretty busy this week. Lots going on. Now, I wouldn't normally be painting this way too. I am doing it so you guys can see better, although I'm not really holding it up there. I'm pushing it, I'm massaging it into the grooves. There's a lot of grooves in this, and there's a lot of raw cut along the edge of this, so I'm going to have to fill that out with paint. And then it's not going to need a lot for a second coat, that's for sure. Pretty good. Oh, that's somebody coming in. That's what it is. There's somebody home. The boys have been out at a race today, and it sounds like they're home. Don't tell my husband about the bowl. Not that he's really worried. Hi, welcome. I'm on a live, mate. It's like, got it. They'll be like mushrooms now, hiding out the back. Okay. I've done the inside, yeah. So inside's all done. Paint the outside. And do you want me to keep going, or would you rather I come back? Because I can let it dry and come back later to show you the rest if you like. Instead of you listening to my hairdryer go off, we can do a part 2. Pups thought that there was a strange dog in the house. My pup knew its own, well, his other owners were home. I didn't realise they were going to be home so early. Yes, video bombing. Video bombing. I have a lot of video bombing. I have to pre-warn everyone when I'm going to tape. But I thought they were out for longer today, so they must have, because they were doing their race a long way away. So they've obviously done it. My son obviously raced early and is back. Everyone's back. Oops, I'm dripping now. So this is going to be a nice rustic piece when it's finished. Again, whipping around, making sure there's no drips, make sure there's no blobs. And I think we've got it all. Just a bit more on the back. Part 2 sounds good. Looking forward to seeing the end product. Yeah, I might do that, Sarah. I'll give it a chance to dry and come back with the part 2. I'll just show you quickly where we're up to before I log off. Let this dry. I'll recap. Okay, it's a holder. We've got a first coat drying on it now. First coat's covered most of it. I will probably touch up a little bit of it, I think, though. When it's dry, I'll give it another coat. I'll give it another coat off camera, but it will be a thinned out coat. I don't think I'm going to need full strength paint on it, to be honest. It seems to be gripping pretty well. But I'll take a look at it. When they dry, you know, and it's absorbed into the wood, you can see better. So I've got the sideboards ready, little side bits ready. What it was is in the background, if you're just on now, plastic wrap holder. Basically this huge plastic wrap holder, and this has been specially made to hold it. And it's not looking as pretty as it could up on my bench, so I'm going to make it nice and French provincial and give it a nice finish. So we're halfway there. We're probably more than halfway there, actually. I'll let this dry. I'll get another coat on. Then I'll come back later and show you the finishing off of this. And ugly no more it will be. It will be beautiful. Okay, so we're up to the next stage from the video before, part 2. I have finished off the base of this. I've painted in a grey colour, just with a stencil, and sealed it with a diluted top coat sealer. And the body has had its second coat of white, so it's ready to go. And now I need to sand it, and it's the same with the sides. Stencil sides have had their second coat of paint, and it's time to sand. Okay, so I'm using a wet a fine sanding block and a clean damp rag, and I'm just going to gently go over the stencil. Now there's a bit of blue coming off because there was blue paint on this previously, so that's not a concern. It's like a white back. And I've just got to massage it until we get the distressing coming through. do the edges. I'm doing it on an angle, so I'm taking out the edges like that. Every now and then wipe it back so you can see what you're doing. And there we go.